Coming up on this episode of Sans World, I'm going to take you on for a road trip today, and I got a special guest to help me along with this. It's a special edition. It's a Columbus, Ohio Police Department cold case, 41 years running, and it happens to be about my dad. I'm going to tell you his story, the backstory, and lots more. This episode of Sans World. Hang out. Hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new episode of Sans World. My name is Justin Sane, your host of Sans World, also the guitar player for the band Cruelladvilband. If you want more information on the band, check out some links I always put in the description of this video. It's heavy, it's loud, it's fast, it's pretty badass. I think everybody should check it out. I think you should check it out. Alright, today's episode is a story of my father, and as I mentioned, I've got a special guest with me, and if you've watched the channel before, you probably know who it is. Say hello.
Oh, hello.
And me, Selena. All right. Yeah, she's going through a book that she's actually never seen before. It's got some pictures of my dad and it's got some insane stories about each picture. It's pretty cool. So yeah, we're gonna take a road trip. We're gonna go through some of the places where we have lived, and yeah, lots more. So buckle in. This should be a entertaining trip, but with a sad ending. But we're going to get that here in a little bit. So, all right, hang out. All right, here we are. We are down at Columbus, Ohio's what they call the South End. We are on. I'll give you guys a kind of an address. It's kind of a shopping center. It's called the it used to be called the Great Southern Shopping Center, and it's on the, like I said, it's on the south end of Columbus. The story does not begin here, but we're going to start filming here. So, as I said, this is the story of my father, Kenneth E. Columbus, Ohio Police Department cold case. Give you kind of a backstory. My dad was born January 15th, 1946. His parents, and I use this term loosely, parents were Mary and John Ward. John left the picture pretty early on after Kenny was born, and his mother Mary didn't really want too much to do with him, anyways. And my dad was primarily raised, and I kind of use that term loosely, was raised by a lady who we termed Aunt Evelyn. Turns out that she was not even related to my father. I'm not really sure how it was, maybe one of Mary's friends, but Aunt Evelyn had a lot to do with his growing up. So Aunt Evelyn didn't really have much to do with raising my father either, and he was kind of a self-made man, but we'll get to that later. So my dad in high school, he dropped out in the 11th grade. He went into the Navy. He learned what's called stationary engineering, which is kind of a fancy term for using like heating and cooling and machines, kind of work together. In the Navy, he learned that. After he was done with his Navy time, moved back to Columbus, Ohio, and he started working for the city of Columbus and started working for the Ohio State University. And from there, well, I'll tell you what, we'll pick that up later. But here we are at the former location of the Great Southern Shopping Center here in Obetz, Ohio, which is again on the south end of Columbus. Around here, and if you guys can't see it, back here is a KFC. So the address of the Woolco, where my mom was working at the time, which is kind of a not really a department store, but it was a standalone store. My mom was working there at the time. And my dad walked in the store. He was actually looking for somebody else, I believe, but him and my mom struck up a friendship. They started dating. From what I can remember, my dad was actually living with his Aunt Evelyn at the time. Once they started dating, they eventually moved in together. And they Lived there for a little bit, and then after that, they moved to a house which we're going to go to here, actually here in a minute. But yeah, this is the Great Southern Shopping Center, and somewhere around here, this is where the Woolco is at, that my mom was working at. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So all right, we're going to find the house where they were living when I was born, and I lived for the first 5 years of my life. So it's got a different house number, but we're gonna go find it. So, alrighty, everybody, we are back. I've made about a 5-10 minute drive, just down the road and a couple turns here and there. We are kind of in between Obetz and another area that's called Hamilton Township, which I had an aunt and uncle and a cousin live around this area. He went to school here and he grew up here. So be getting out of the car here in just a little bit, kind of show you the house. Definitely believe in people's privacy. I don't want to disrupt anybody's lives. I did drive by the house, and there's about 4 or 5 cars in this. It's not really a driveway, but kind of parked in front of the house, and I definitely don't want to disrupt anybody's lives with this. But yeah, we'll be getting out of the car here shortly. Did want to just elaborate on something about my dad growing up. When him and my mom met, one of my dad's first loves were cars. He loved cars. He actually liked to drive fast, and he had a Camaro. I don't remember the year, but he had a Camaro. I'll put the year. If I can actually find kind of like a similar kind of color, make, and model of this car, I'll put it down here. You guys can take a look at it. It was a green Camaro, and they kind of nicknamed it the Green Frog because when he liked to race, which is there was a racetrack around here. It was called the National Trail Raceway. He actually won several trophies with this car. They called it the Green Frog because it liked to jump the line, and yeah, when he was racing. But yeah, he was badass, and he won several trophies with that car. But he loved to tinker with cars, liked to take apart the engine, put it back together again. Just mess with all the different parts of the car. He would take them apart and just put it back together. And again, he learned a lot of things. Again, that was part of his engineering background. Yeah, he loved to do that, and he had several very, very, very nice cars, which we'll get to that a little bit later. All right, so we're going to get out of the car here, and I'm going to kind of show you as much of the house as I can. But yeah, it definitely does not look anything like the house that I grew up in. They've added a second floor, and yeah, it's pretty interesting. But yeah, so here we go. Hang out. I have a few pretty cool memories of the house. Dad and I used to play in the backyard, which I'm gonna show some pictures here, kind of show you, playing baseball, doing some stuff. Dad was studying martial arts. He would practice up on me, all in good fun. Down the main street is the street where I actually learned how to ride a bike, and so that was pretty cool. Another funny story. You're gonna laugh at this. I was out in the backyard playing, and all of a sudden I got called in for dinner, and I decided, I ran up the porch, and instead of opening the glass door, I actually ran through the glass door, arms first, and I still have a scar. You can't really see it, but I have a scar on my right forearm, from that. So pretty cool memories. We lived there for about 5 years, and then my mom and dad decided that we wanted to get out of the South End. No disrespect to the people in the South Enders, but they just wanted to kind of make a new life and just kind of get away from things. So we moved to another small town, Marysville, which we'll get to here in a second. But what we're going to do is we're just basically just going to kind of drive by the house, and you guys can see it, and then we're going to hit the road again. So hang tight. Here we go. Here's the house right here. That's the backyard I used to play in. That is the house right there. A lot of good memories. Here's the backyard, the other half of it. So when we lived there, both sides of the backyard were fenced in, so that when I was playing kickball or whatever, the ball wouldn't go flying out. Yeah, the house looks a lot different now than when it did. So if you want to kind of peek around, if you want to look, this is kind of like the neighborhood that this is the neighborhood we started out at. Hasn't really changed much, but yet it has. You know, the houses have been kind of refurbished, so to speak. They've done some renovation here and there, but so this is Columbus, Ohio. That's south end of Columbus. All right. I have several interesting memories of this house. Of course, we had a lot of, from Christmases. My first Christmas is here. It was actually down this street where I actually learned how to ride a bike for the first time, in the backyard. It used to be fenced in right there. That's where I learned to play, hit a baseball. My dad would practice his, he was studying Kung Fu down here. He was studying under Master Greenlee, and who became a grandmaster, which basically means that one or more of your students becomes a master, then you become a grandmaster. But he would practice his martial arts back in the backyard, and there's a couple times he would practice it on me. But believe me, he would take it easy on me. So he would kind of just pretend to hit me, and I'd fall over. And I got video that I'm going to show at the very end. It's pretty cute. But so family was very cute, very close. We had, as far as on my end, we had a few aunts and uncles that would stop by, and they would play this card game called euchre. I never learned how to play it, but they would play it, and they would switch around partners, and it was just a lot of fun, and they had a lot of fun playing this card game. So it's pretty cool. The owner of the house was actually kind of curious because somebody filming something on this road is, let's just say it's unusual. So yeah, he actually got out, and we actually talked for about a half an hour. Anyways, very cool guy. I told him what was going on, what this episode is about, and he actually turns out he actually watches a lot of stuff on YouTube. So he's going to find the channel and give it a follow. You talk about planets aligning. Unbelievable. He said the house was built in 1902. And 2018, the owners of the house, I'm going to assume he's renting it. 2018, it went over a total transformation and renovation. So yeah, that's why it looks completely different. All right, everybody, we are going to hit the road again, and we're going to head up to Marysville. The reason why we moved up there, it was closer to where my dad had started work. In 1973, he started working at Anheuser-Busch. Worked his way up to become a foreman. He obviously wanted to move closer to work, which it was. But also, Marysville at the time supposedly had a really booming school system, which obviously would have been good for me. So, yeah, we moved up there, and I'll tell you the story about our move there shortly. Hang out. All right, we are in Marysville, Ohio. So here's the story of this first house. In the mid-70s, Anheuser-Busch, when my dad had just, basically almost started working there, Anheuser-Busch went on strike. Mom and Dad had saved up money to actually build a house, but when Anheuser-Busch went on strike, that money that they had saved up, they had to use that to live on. So what they did is we still moved up to Marysville, but what we did is we actually rented a house for a while until we could, everybody can get their bearings together, figure out what they're going to do, figure out where we're going to live, because we couldn't build a house anymore. So we rented a house, and we're going to be passing that here in just a few seconds. One of the memories, really one of the only memories that I have of this house is it was a split level house. So when you went in the front door, you had stairs that went up to the main level, and you had stairs that went down to the basement. And like I said, I don't really have any memories of what it was, the layout and anything like that, but I do remember. There is the house that we lived at for about a year. And as you can see, there's windows on the bottom of the house. That was the split level. That actually went down to the basement. Now, my older cousin Joby, who I've talked about in this channel before, tried to jump from the top of the stairs down to the bottom floor. He did that, but he also, what he did is he hit his head on the ceiling, and the ceiling had the really rough texture to it. Can't remember what it's called, but he scraped the top of his head on the ceiling above the stairs, really good, and he started bleeding pretty bad. So that's unfortunately that's really the only memory I have of the house. We weren't here for very long, maybe a year at most. Mom and Dad found a house that I would eventually grow up in, and so we're going to drive there now. And this is kind of the outskirts of Marysville. This is kind of like just like a separate housing development. It's been here since probably the late 60s, early 70s, and is what it is. So we're going to drive into Marysville, and I'm going to show you guys the house that I grew up in. Hang out. Yeah, welcome to Marysville. Marysville welcomes you. I'm sure it does. So this is Marysville, sort of, kinda. There's the local Y right there. Here's an interesting fact. Let me see if I can get up here. See the strip mall that has the, I don't know if I'm not going to be blocked by this truck here. See that strip mall that has the, I can barely see it, right there. Right, where do I figure it? Right there is a strip mall. Back in the 80s, that used to be a skating rink. And at that skating rink is where I had my first brush with what it's like to be a rock star. Sort of, kind of. Yeah, I was in a band in high school, and yeah, we played there a lot. Man, too bad you can't barely see it. Yeah, it's like right there. Yeah. But yeah, here's Marysville. Not a whole lot to it. Pretty much blows. Not a huge fan. All right, we're about to hit up the neighborhood where I grew up in. Hang out. Get in now. Is it recording? Mm-hmm. All right, welcome back, everybody. So this is the neighborhood that I grew up in, and there's friends of mine that lived almost like every other house. And I haven't been here in many years. It's hasn't really changed much, other than the trees have gotten much bigger. This is crazy. All right, so we're coming up on the house that I grew up in. It's the house up here, right there. That's the house I grew up in. And yeah. Now, one of the last times that I was here, and I actually talked to the owners of that house, they were still the ones that actually bought it from my mom in, 1989. That is crazy. So I'm gonna go ahead and here. Okay, I'm back. So yeah, I have a lot of good memories of that house. Yeah, we lived in there from about 1976 to pretty much like the day after I graduated in 1989. I moved out. Mom sold the house shortly after. So Mom and Dad they were married. They got divorced in 1980, and then he moved, back to Columbus so he could be really close to work. His first apartment that he had for about a year was literally just right down the street from Anheuser-Busch Brewery. Matter of fact, he probably could have run there, and he would have gotten there in time. Wouldn't have been late. My dad used to like every Christmas, he would buy live trees. And then after the holiday, he would actually plant those live trees. So he was what they called green. Definitely believed in doing what's great for the environment. things like that. He was a huge tennis player. Loved to ski, and he liked to hunt, but he didn't really do that a lot. But he did this. He had a kind of like a small group of friends, but they were very, very close, and they did a lot together. There was this guy, we called him JP. One of his best friends in the entire world was called Bloomer. I'm actually still friends with him to this day. He lives in town. He's a very nice guy. We've shared stories left and right, and we still keep touch. He did tell me a story. Actually, a lot of cool stories about Dad. They did everything. They went to go play tennis, skiing, shooting, just all sorts of different stuff. So my dad, Bloomer, told me the story that it really hit him about Dad on the next day at work on this. So it would have been July 16th, which I'll get into dates later. The next day, July 16th, I showed up for work and didn't see my dad's car there, and he just broke down in the parking lot. They were just extremely close. I have really good memories of them both. Yeah, just very, very sad. But yeah, we had good times in Marysville. We'd have family over, and they would hang out. Before 1978, I had 2 aunts and 2 uncles move out to California. You guys know this. But before that, we would have family, come to Marysville, and my dad would play tennis with my Uncle Bill, and they would come back to the house, and it was just our family was very, very close, and we did a lot of things together until we were separated, literally, on the other sides of the country. But everybody, still remained close. It was very, very, very good time. So, like I said, in 1980, Mom and Dad decided to get a divorce, and Dad moved back to Columbus. But I'm going to show you a couple. I'm going to show you a couple spots here in Marysville that my dad liked to go. There's a place near downtown that my dad liked to get his tennis rackets restrung. Like to get his shoes there, his gear there. So we'll drive by there, and we'll also drive by the tennis courts where Dad would play a lot. So hang out. I'll drive by there. That's wrong. Yeah, just keep it like that. All right, so this is downtown Marysville. Yeah, I know. All right, so coming up here on the right, if it's still here, which the building's still here, it's up here on the right with the blue bottom. This was called Monarch Sports, and this is where my dad would get all of his tennis rackets restrung, all of his gear, all of his tennis shoes, all of his tennis shirts. That's where he would get it. The owners were super nice. The owner's name, the husband, his name was Terry Brown, and I cannot remember his wife's name at the moment, but they were really nice people. All right, everybody. So Selena and I we're going to park here. We're going to stretch our legs. We've been in the car for a couple hours. So all right. So we are at one of my dad's favorite spots here in Marysville, and this is I think it's called the Ray Lewis Park or something like that. So check this out. This is pretty badass. This is also one of my favorite spots too. So behind here you have tennis courts. And right next to it, in this park, you have football field. And when I played Pee Wee football, before I got in middle school and then high school, when I played, this is where I dominated. And just for shits and giggles, I'm going to throw up a picture of here when we played. Yeah, you guys like that? I was so tiny. I know, Minnesota Vikings colors. They didn't give me a choice. So yeah, let me turn this thing around. So yeah, this is the tennis courts. This is where my dad and all of his friends played. And my Uncle Bill would play with my dad as well. They would play here. And this is where I learned how to play tennis. right here. Aside from cars and aside from us, we're tennis and snow. So yeah. Oh yeah, and oh Lord, it's been quite a few years. But Dad and I's friend Bloomer and I brought Selena out here, and we hit some balls. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Awesome.
When we played out here.
Yeah, and I tried to hit the ball like long, and Bloomer was like, dude, you're too far away, get closer. Yeah, because we were so far away from the net. All right, so I'm going to put you on the spot here. There's Selena. Yeah, we're just getting out stretching our legs. So obviously, unfortunately, you never got to meet Grandpa Kenny. But what comes to mind when you hear this? You hear stories about my dad. What comes to mind? What kind of emotions do you get?
Well, I feel it's bittersweet because stories just make me almost miss somebody I've never met.
Yep.
And based off of the things I've heard about him, I feel like we would have not only loved each other but gotten along and would have done some pretty cool stuff together and shared some hobbies. So
yeah, my dad was creative, and he was super athletic. He loved to get out and do things. He loved the outdoors, but he, believe me, Dad would have loved you unconditionally. It's one of the saddest things that this family's has had to deal with. And believe me, we've had to deal with a lot. You turn this thing around. We've had to deal with a lot. And what happened to my dad, no words, you can't describe it. Selena and I drove by the Marysville pool, and on the day that we had to make the call to the Columbus Police Department, my friend Aaron and I, and I'm sure a few of our other friends, were at the pool while Dad was dead. And I don't remember. I don't remember. What happened that the previous night. We'll get into this later. All the time lapse, but Mom picked us up from the pool, drove us home, and when we got home, the next door neighbor said, "Hey Debbie, the Columbus Police Department over here. You need to call them." And Mom called him and freaked out. Because of her upbringing, she, both of her parents, died when she was very young, about the same age as me, if not younger. So now I had to live without a dad, and that tore her apart. Even though they were divorced, she thought of me, and now I didn't have a dad around. I was close to my dad, but he worked a lot. And after Mom and Dad got divorced, I did the every other weekend thing. Friday nights after school or whatever, he'd pick me up in his car in Marysville, drive me to Columbus. At his where he lived, which we'll get to that here very shortly. I'd spend every other weekend I'd spend with him. Had a lot of fun. It was a blast. And then, a year and a half later, he was gone. But he really loved this place. Bloomer, I know you're going to watch this. He loved it with you. He loved playing tennis with you. He loved spending time with you. And he misses you. That we've talked about that before. All right, I gotta get it together because believe me, it gets worse. So we're gonna head. I might drive Selena by a few other places here in town, just to see him. But it's Marysville. There's not a whole lot here. So, but yeah, we're gonna go to Columbus, and I'm gonna show you where Dad lived after Mom and Dad got divorced, and kind of fill in the rest, and hang out. Hey everybody, sorry about this. This is what I'm calling a drop-in. I was doing some edits, putting the video kind of together in pieces, and I'm like, oh man, you know what? There's some stuff about my dad that I actually didn't mention that I should, because it's pretty important as far as his background, his story, things about his personality that I didn't mention. I was kind of just talking about the houses and places and things. Anyways, just a few things I wanted to mention about Dad real quick. Something else I wanted to mention, Dad and I, we never really got a chance to talk about music, but I'll tell you what, Dad had a rad record collection. Some of his favorite bands, this is I guess what it's now called classic rock. He loved Bad Company, loved Queen. That was like one of his favorite bands. He loved the Eagles. There's two solo artists that he really liked, Jim Croce and Gordon Lightfoot. He loved those artists a lot. He would always, play them, and he's playing a lot, especially Jim Croce. I heard him a lot. I love him, and so whenever I hear Jim Croce, it's definitely gives me kind of brings back good memories. Also, something else I wanted to mention, kind of about Dad's personality. First of all, he was the type of person that he really wouldn't, like in conversation, he wouldn't really give his opinion on something unless you asked. And if you did ask, let me tell you, there was no gray area with Dad. You got the undiluted, unfiltered, unedited version of the way he saw things, and it was, like I said, it was very, very to the point. And whether you agreed with him or not, he definitely didn't give you his opinion on the way he saw things. Again, no gray area with Dad. He was very driven to succeed. He was actually taking before he died, he was actually taking night classes. As I mentioned in the video, I'm not really sure where I'm going to drop this in at, but if I haven't mentioned, Dad dropped out in I think 10th grade. He dropped out of high school. Then he went into the Navy. But he was getting his GED. He was taking night classes, and one of his dreams was to go to college. And one of his big dreams was actually for us to go to college together. But yeah, Dad was very driven to succeed. He loved to read. He loved knowledge. He was huge into landscaping. I know the house in Marysville, after it was bought, he tore out the grass and he reseeded it. The Christmas trees, he bought live Christmas trees. After the holiday, he would replant them and basically around the house. So I definitely believe in that. He was just huge on self-improvement. He wanted to be, better than he was, the day before. Like I said, he loved education. He loved to read. He was just very driven to succeed. He just wanted, he just wanted a better life. He was responsible. He was honest. Believed in fair play, and he loved education, and he just loved knowledge. One of the first lessons that I kind of learned from Dad was I was probably about 7 or 8, and there was a neighbor girl down the street. This is again the house in Marysville. This girl neighbor, she had just gotten out of the hospital. I believe she had her appendix taken out. I don't recall, but Dad said, "Hey, Justin, so and so just got back from the hospital. We're going to go visit her." And that was kind of like one of the first lessons that he taught me was, when somebody's sick, you go visit them. That's something that something you should do for yourself, and obviously for the person you're going to visit, just to brighten their spirits. He was a very positive person. Just fun to be around. He set the bar so high with himself and the people he worked with, his friends. He wanted everybody to be better than they were the day before, and that was definitely himself.
he just wanted everybody to, just set such high standards, such high expectations for himself and for everybody around him. And these are stories that were kind of passed down to me because I didn't really get to know him inside and out until much later, hearing stories and seeing pictures and things, and knowing what my dad went through and was actually doing, before he died. He wasn't religious at all. He was, I guess, what you would call agnostic, but he definitely was kind of curious about the universe and the things around him, things about UFOs, Bermuda Triangle. He was very curious about the universe. Something else that he believed in people often before they actually believed in themselves, which is, I think, is a pretty rad characteristic if you ask me. My Aunt Marcia, my dad asked her to cut his hair, and he had some gorgeous hair. And Marcia had not really ever cut hair before, and she's like, I think I can do it, this and that. My dad was like, you know what, Marcia, you got this. And my dad never said, holy shit, what the hell did you do to my hair? He never said that. He was like, looks great. And it gave her a lot of confidence in life, and just little things like that people carry with them throughout life. And he was just a really good inspiration. Just a really good influence on people. Just he believed in the right things. He worked his ass off. He was good with money. He was able to save money, and just time was definitely cut short. Just can't explain it. So, all right, I'm going to get out with this drop in, and we're going to go back to the episode. Thank you very much. Roll tape. Back to the regularly scheduled program already in progress. See you guys in a bit. Yep, that is where we were on our way. We are on our way to the brewery where Dad worked. That back in the day it was called the Continent. To the right you had all sorts of shops and restaurants and markets and stuff. You can get all sorts of good stuff to eat. Now it's kind of a hodgepodge of different places. If you look straight ahead, you'll see a rock and metal club called the King of Clubs, which comes into the picture much later in a different episode. If you look to the left here, you'll see a movie theater, which used to be really, really cool. It's a pretty cool water fountain though. It's nice. Yeah, I saw a lot of cool movies here back in the day. So we're gonna pass an apartment complex. It's called Continent Village Luxury Apartments. Alright. Now, I'm not sure which one it was because Dad only lived here for about a year. But after Mom and Dad got divorced, Dad lived in these apartments. Like I said, I don't remember which one it was, but I can tell you his apartment number was 711, and I remember that because that's my birthday, July 11th. So it's easy to remember. But yeah, as far as what building it was, I have no idea. Couldn't tell you. But as far as I remember, it was one of the ones facing the street. It wasn't one of the side ones over here to the left that you guys see. It was one of the ones facing me. But yeah, doesn't look bad. I don't really have any memories except for I think I I don't really have any memories of being inside, other than because we didn't really spend a whole lot of time there. Dad, it was like just, you know, 1 bedroom, 1 bath. It was very, very small. I think Dad slept on the bed, and I slept on a couch, I think. Really, the only thing I remember kind of regarding this was how close to the brewery it is, because it's literally right down the street. And Dad, at the time, he was dating a girl named Patty. Patty was super, super nice to me, nice to Dad. And Patty had a daughter. Her name is Rayanne. And again, she was really, really cool, really nice to me. I remember when Dad and Patty were hanging out, Rayanne and I were like playing in the street. They lived in an area of Columbus called Westerville, which is kind of close to where Dad moved after this. But yeah, Patty and Rayanne were really nice. When Dad passed away, Patty was at the memorial service, so that was cool. And there was somebody that was not at the memorial service that is connected to this. Then she was not allowed to go to it, which I'll get into that later. But yeah, for a year, Dad lived here, and yeah, that was about it. So yeah, we're gonna drive by the brewery and yeah, check that out. All right, so there's the brewery. There's the brew house. Dad worked. I can tell you the brewery has changed quite a bit. Alrighty, everybody, welcome back. So we are in the vicinity of my dad's condominium. This is the last place he lived. So I'm guessing he probably moved here sometime in 1981. I'm guessing. Yeah, I don't know, but it was a very nice condominium. It's a private area, so I'm gonna try to film as much as I can here, but I got to be careful. So his condominium, again, from what I remember, it was just 1 bedroom, 1 bath. Had a decent sized kitchen, decent sized living room. Did have like a back patio that was had like a wooden fenced in. Wasn't huge. He had a parking spot right in the middle. They had, they have garages. They're covered. They're not closed. They don't have garage doors, but they have, covered roofs. And his was in the middle of the spot, and it was like, three spots. I'm going to try to get this on film so you guys can see it. Well, his spot had these steel poles on each side. So I remember whenever I got out of his car, I had to be careful not to hit the door on this steel rod, or else, that would be very, very bad, very, very bad. My dad was a car guy, and through my pretty much the only type of car that I remember him having were Porsches. He was working in Anheuser-Busch. He was, had a really good paying job. He was able to afford them. He had, I think, like 3 different models of Porsches.
And but they were constantly in the shop. He was constantly messing with them. He had a really cool set of tools. He was always tinkering with them. But then he decided, you know what, I think it's best to go a different route. So sometime in 1981, he actually bought a Corvette, and it was super nice. It was like a maroon colored, but it had this silver, almost like patent leather interior that in the summertime I had to watch my ass because that seat got freaking hot. And there's a couple times I sat down in it and kind of burned the back of my legs. So yeah, I had to watch my ass. So yes, it was super nice. Unfortunately, after Dad passed away, it was it was nothing that was passed down to me, as much as that would have been. So I've always had like an affinity for Porsches, just sentimental value, just really nice cars. So Selena and I were going to try to walk around. I'm going to try to be cool, just kind of show you things as best I can. Like I said, this is the last place where Dad lived. He had at this time, Patty and him had broken up, and he had a girlfriend named Sheila. And I remember Sheila came over, and Dad introduced her to me, and I said, "Dad, come here." Took him down the hallway into his bedroom. I'm like, "Dad, she's hot." And Dad just got this look on his face like, "Get back here." So we went back in the living room, and I can't remember what we did after that, but we just hung out. Hold on. So yeah, so Dad was like, "Come on, let's get back here." So as far as I remember, that was the one and only time I met her. But I could have hung out with her more, but I don't remember. So we'll move up here. So you're going to see a silver Volkswagen. Dad's parking spot was right next to it, so it was right in the middle. The 3259, that was his right there. And like I said, I always had to be careful. So Dad's place is right down there. That's the cupboard. So right there is the sliding glass door. And there's a gate. So the person went through that gated fence, went through the sliding glass door, went inside the condominium, found Dad in the kitchen, and shot him. So, that's where it is right there. Yep. I haven't been here in a while. There was one time, and this, you guys are gonna think I'm weird. You guys are gonna really think I'm weird. I came by here one night. It was matter of fact, it was probably when I moved back here from when I was living out west. I parked right around here somewhere, and it was on the anniversary. It was like the like probably 2016, something like that. It was yeah, July 14th, probably 2016. I parked. And And at that time, a lot of stuff had been weighing on me, just guilt and just stuff. And I just kind of closed my eyes, and I said, "Dad, let me know this. Let me know this is all right." And I felt this huge weight lifted off my shoulders, and it was almost like the car and I were floating in the air. It was the strangest feeling that I've ever had. And that was Dad's way of letting me know that, dude, number one, it's all right. Number two, you need to let go of this fucking shit, because it's weighing you down, like literally and figuratively. That meant a lot. To the person who did this, I needed a father. You selfish prick. I don't care what your reasonings are. What person in their right mind, number one, kills people, kills somebody? Number one, it had nothing to do with you. There's no person in this world that Dad would have harmed. Nobody. He's one of the nicest people in the world. You know, what's the old saying? To give you the shirt off, shirt off of his shoulders to help you out. So, if you know of anything, please contact the Columbus Police Department. I will put the number down here. Homicide Division. The person who's assigned my dad's case, his last name is Dempsey. I'm sure he's no longer there. 41 years that my family's had to live with this shit, and it's still unsolved. We have given no answers. I was at my mom's last night, and I actually read the autopsy, and I got a lot of details on what happened. It's very, very specific. Shit hurts. It's one of the worst things that ever happened in this family. I hate guns, obviously. My dad was shot and killed. Larry was, shot and paralyzed. Ultimately, that did Althea in. I fucking hate guns. But I'm pro-right the right to own them. Who am I to tell people what they can't use to defend themselves? I wish my dad had one. Maybe he could have defended himself, but he couldn't. When somebody comes storming through your glass door like that, and just like that, it's over. So what happened, I'll give you kind of details of what happened after that. He lost a lot of blood. At one point, the Columbus police thought that he was stabbed. So the next day, obviously, he doesn't show up to work. His boss, whose name I thought was Rex, but it turns out it was somebody else in the police report. On his break, he tries, first of all, morning he's trying to get a hold of my dad. He's obviously not answering. So he decides on his break, he's like, screw this, I'm going to go to where he lives and see what's going on. And obviously my dad's car was here. Knocked on the door, rang doorbell, no answer. Obviously, he goes around the back and he sees the door's open, and goes in the condominium and sees him on the kitchen floor. So, gets a hold of Columbus Police Department. They go in, figure out who he is, figure out who to reach. Obviously, the first person is my mom. So we were at the Marysville pool that day. The next day, this is now July 15th. My friends and I were at the pool. Mom picks us up, takes us back home. The next door neighbor says, Debbie, the Columbus Police Department were here. You need to call them. So Mom gets on the phone, calls them. They tell her what happened that previous night. Shortly after 9 o'clock that night, on the 14th, that's when it happened. His body was discovered the next day at shortly about, I think it's 12:22 the next afternoon. So Mom freaks out, and my body goes into shock. And I believe that's my body's way of saying, Justin, we're going to protect you. You're not going to have to live with this stuff. We're going to shut you down. And I went in my bedroom and fell asleep. So word spread pretty quickly among my friends. And so Mom had to call the family, let them know what had happened. It's just complete fucking nightmare. It's the kind of phone calls you don't want to have to make. My heart goes out to anyone who has ever had to make those phone calls or even get them. So again, Kenneth E. Ward worked in Anheuser-Busch from 73 to 82. He was a foreman. If you know anything, contact the Columbus Police Department, Homicide Division. Number's down there and in the description of this video. Remain anonymous. I don't give a shit. I want fucking answers. I want to know who the fuck did this. I want to know this for 41 years. And I get nothing. We get nothing. You know, my poor daughter does not know who my dad was, other than stories and pictures. That's all she gets. My friends, when I was growing up, were the best in the world. They helped me through this more than they can ever imagine. To all my friends that I was close to growing up, Aaron, Doug, Chris, Jan, all you guys, thank you so much for helping me heal as much as you guys could. Most likely, I'm probably going to send this to some of the news outlets here in Columbus to see if the Columbus Police Department can get off their ass and figure something out. So wish me luck on that. So, well, I've only got a few more hours with my daughter I'm going to spend with her. She's got to go back home, and she's hustling. She's got an internship that she's starting, and you know, I know she's going to kick ass at it. Yeah, I just wish that, you know, Selena had the time with my dad that I had. Love you guys so much. Typical stuff. If you haven't subscribed before, please hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that notification bell. That way we get notified anytime I upload any new videos for you guys. Normally the hard rock and heavy metal fans, but shit hits different today. For that I apologize, but this is a story that I've been wanting to tell for ever since I even started this channel. So love you guys. Stay metal. Stay rad. Be fucking nice to each other. Alright? If you got a beef with somebody, just cut it off. Don't do anything stupid. Alright? Just cut it off and just say, you know what? I gotta do what I gotta do. Just be fucking cool to each other, alright? So, love you guys. I'll see you guys real soon. I'm sorry about this heavy episode, but yeah, Dad deserves this, and yeah. So, love you guys. I'm gonna play some video here and some montage. I'm gonna show some video and montage of pictures that both Selena has put together on her website, and pictures that we've been gathered throughout the years. My dad hated to have his picture taken, so we don't have much. Usually, if he saw a camera anywhere near, he'd put his middle finger up or put his hand in front of his face. So, yeah, pictures of him are pretty rare. So, anyways, love you guys. Yeah, I'll see you guys real soon. Love you.
You're back, snake! Grab it, grab it. Grab it! Grab it!